Over
coming
in
up.
Africa, mommy Africa, the blacks sold other blacks to the Arabs. And it was the Arabs that took blacks around the world and sold them to other countries. It wasn't the white people, because even in those days, the rich black people in Africa were using other blacks as money. When they wanted to buy cows and things, they used the blacks as the money. When they wanted to go to the grocery store, they enslaved the blacks, and they're the one that sold the blacks to the Arabs. Why is that being left out? That part of the story.
Welcome, culture warriors. How you're doing today? In this installment, you can see already Jesse is asking another race-based, a very vital question. Did you know that other blacks sold other blacks to the Arabs? This part is being left out in the whole slave story, slave scam. That these race beaters, these race hustlers have been using to milk and to deceive a lot of black people in America. So in this video, Jess is going to be exposing some of these things. I want you to enjoy this video. If you've not subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? Come on, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. Without wasting much time, let's get into it.
Over in Africa, mommy Africa, the blacks sold other blacks to the Arabs. And it was the Arabs that took blacks around the world and sold them to other countries. It wasn't the white people, because even in those days, the rich black people in Africa were using other blacks as money. When they wanted to buy cows and things, they used the blacks as the money. When they wanted to go to the grocery store, they enslaved the blacks, and they're the one that sold the blacks to the Arabs. Why is that being left out? That part of the story.
What I'm focused on, because there's just a whole bunch of problems in what you said. But
Can you
what
tell
I'm
me why
focused
that
on,
part of the story is left out? Because and it wasn't white people
there was
who
a
went
difference
there.
between some of the slavery that has taken place, thousands of years ago, or that the Moors might have engaged in parts of Africa with the Ottoman Empire and the like. But what took place with the slavery in the United States and what Europe brought here was a complete unique form of slavery that was very much race-based, not just in terms of conquering any kind of people, but race-based, right? And so then who brought the first slaves into this country in the 1500s, at least as early as like 1526, was the Spanish and the Portuguese. And then in terms of 1619, that people know as the year, those were the slaves that came that the British brought.
But
to
let
the
me do
English
this, because
colonies.
I've heard it all before, but let me just ask.
Sure.
Even in those days, there were black people who owned slaves as well. So they were part of the white group that owned slaves. Even in places like my friend Big Bump explained on the show, and he black, that there were black-owned slaves, black slave owners in Kentucky or one of those places, over 400 or some owners or something like that. And so that seemed to be left out the picture too. Why is that?
I guess my question for you is, why are you so focused on the things that a very small number, if at all, Black people, what they may have done, as opposed to the monumental issues that were created and perpetrated against Black people? Why are you so focused on not, fully negating what white people did?
Because
you're focused on these little anomalies. And I'm not going to say that there was never a single Black person that never owned a single slave. But what I'm saying is what was happening colossal, broad scale, in terms of the founding of this country, and what took us up to the Civil War was because white people owned Black people and enslaved them and engaged in, child trafficking, rape, forced labor, all kinds of problems.
It's been reported that, and I believe I might be wrong about this, that Kamala Harris, the so-called vice president, and
why is she so called? Wait, why is she so called vice president? She is the vice president.
And then the father Messiah, Barack Obama, it's been said that their family members own slaves. And you keep mentioning the 400 years of so-called aggression, right? I grew up down...
So-called?
Right.
I mean, let me ask you this, Jesse. Do you think Black people were enslaved in this country?
Yes, they say they were, but they were better off then than they are today.
Why were they better off?
Because they were decent Blacks. They worked. They have
You mean
families.
worked? Because if they didn't work, they would be killed, or they have like their hand cut off, or they'd be raped or branded or
No, that's
sold,
not
or
why.
they have to engage in mandingo fighting or some terrible thing that
You've been
happened.
watching too many movies.
No, I am not just talking
And
about
no
watching too many
Mandingo.
movies.
Mandingo is not real.
The point is, Jesse,
What
is
the?
that slavery and enslavement of another people is mass torture. It is terror.
No, that's exaggerated.
No, it is not exaggerating.
I got
How is it
proof.
exaggerating? How is it exaggerating when you snatch people from Africa, bring them here,
They
possibly
didn't
20 million
snatch them
people,
from
half
Africa.
of
They
them,
were
maybe 10
sold.
million die en route.
They didn't
Okay, they
snatch
have
them.
to.
They were sold to the
Yes.
Arabs by other blacks,
No,
and they
not in
sold
any
them
sort of
across the world.
colossal.
So they weren't snatched.
The bottom line, Jesse, is your reality is not my reality. I think my reality is more based on fact, and yours seems to be pulled out of the ether.
No, my reality is better than yours. Let me tell you why. May I?
I'm listening.
I grew up black. I look black. I am black. I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama under the Jim Crow laws. My parents and my grandparents and their parents worked the plantation. And during those times, I was taught to work, treat people the way I would like to be treated. The blacks were not complaining about the whites at all because they knew it was good versus evil. And that was in all races of people. And so they treated people the way they would like to be treated. They bought land.
You mean like lynching
They
them,
bought land.
Jesse?
They bought land.
Like lynching?
They bought land, and they have a bunch of children. They educated them. They taught them trades. And blacks were not calling white people white supremacists. They were treating everyone the same as they would like to be treated. And only after the so-called civil rights movement happened, I know you agree with this, that the worst thing other than abortion that ever happened to the blacks was the civil rights movement. It's just been downhill ever since.
I fundamentally, thoroughly disagree.
I was around.
Virtually everything that you just said in that paragraph.
Why?
I mean, basically, you're signed up for the oppression of black people.
What do you mean?
Is where you stand.
I want the blacks to be free. I want them to stop begging and blaming and take responsibility. Stop identifying as a group, but as an individual.
You're not going to solve anything on an individual basis. But my question is,
you're not going to solve it until you go to individuality.
So do you think, Jesse, do you think that white people as a group in this country never harmed black people with slavery?
You can't find one white person living today that ever harmed one black person in slavery. Not one.
Yeah, because everyone from the slavery era has died, and the last slave may have died in, like, let's say maybe like the 1940s or something.
And so white people are not responsible for the blacks, as the blacks are not responsible for white people are not responsible for what happened way back then, as the blacks are not responsible for what happened way back then.
The country is responsible for the economic benefits and the grifting that happened to
But
black
we were giving the blacks everything they begged for. They still not happy.
No,
they asked for just during the so-called civil rights movement, right? No such thing as civil rights, by the way. They asked for affirmative act. They asked for welfare. We gave them welfare. They asked to go
Most people on welfare are white.
They asked to go because there are more white people. They asked to go to white schools. We let them into the white schools. They asked to go to the white cafe. We let them into the white cafe.
I have a fundamental question.
They even asked for the white woman. We gave them the white women, and they're still not satisfied. Ain't nothing else to give.
I have a fundamental question.
Do you disagree with that?
I disagree with almost everything that you say. But
they didn't ask for the white woman.
I'm just going to ignore that one. But
why?
But my question, I mean, what you say that as a group, black people just want white women? Is that what you're trying to say?
Remember when black men had to have a white woman, and the white woman got mad? I mean, the black woman got mad about it, so they kind of cooled it off a little bit. But you remember those days when they would say, well, the white man won't let us have the white woman. You'll let us in your cafe, but you won't give us your white woman. And so women, and so the white man said, oh, okay, y'all can have our women.
Okay, didn't quite happen that way, but here's my fundamental question for you,
Yes, it
Jesse.
did. Go ahead.
No, it didn't. Okay, here's my fundamental question for you. Do you love your own people,
And who are my own people?
Black people?
Yes.
How?
I love them without judging them. I understand they cannot see. And because if they could see, they would be individuals. They would have their own families. They wouldn't have any other person representing them except for the people they vote for, no matter who that is. And I see that they can't see. And that's why they're such victims. They're blind and cannot see. They're angry at their mothers and they're yearning for their fathers, and they're blaming the white man rather than seeing what's going on in their home. It's their mothers who screwed them up and not the white man.
Okay, so nothing in that statement that you just made implied that you love your own people.
That was
Because it
all
was just a
love.
whole bunch of negativity and a whole bunch of bashing your own people.
Like, what do you
So
mean?
tell
Like how?
me, so just tell me, can you tell me 3 things that are positive that you appreciate about Black people?
Oh, number one, I appreciate that there are 1 or 2 blacks who are starting to wake up. They're starting to overcome hating the white man, being victim, and blaming everyone. And they're starting to wake up. I appreciate, ain't nothing else I can think of.
I mean, I don't even think that one that you scratched and scrabbled to try to come up with was even positive, because there was a whole bunch of negative that came with it.
But like what?
I mean, I just think it's unfortunate that you're focused more on taking down Black people.
I'm trying to point the right way to them. I'm telling them I didn't grow up a victim. I grew up under Jim Crow law. I worked at cotton field. Have you ever worked at cotton field?
No, and I hope not to.
Well, you don't know what you wouldn't understand. Then you're like a white woman.
I know that it's hard
you
work,
have
but I don't
white
want my
privilege.
hands all cut up with those thorns and whatnot. No, that's hard work.
See, you thinking like a white woman.
No, I also haven't picked grapes like a lot of the Latinos that do in California, which I also respect as very hard work.
But let me ask. I'm trying to point the right way for them. I got to ask you this. Do you feel bad that not all, but the average Black man is so weak that he is allowing the Black woman to take over and lead the way? Do you feel bad for the Black man that he would bow down to the Black woman and be the weaker vessel and allow her to try to lead them in the right way to go? Does that make you sad when you see that?
Well, I don't even agree with the premise of what you said.
What do you mean?
I don't think that Black women are trying to, basically what you're saying is emasculate and break down Black men.
Well, that's what they're doing every day. Why don't you?
From your perspective, which is pretty misogynist.
What's that?
I mean, you have a negative view of women too.
How is that?
Based on what you just said.
What?
Okay, so now we're gonna play this game again.
I don't know anything I said.
Can you say 3 things positive about women?
I don't know anything I said that wasn't true, though.
It was not, because Black women are not breaking down men, and
yes,
I do not believe,
even in the home.
I do not believe that Black men are inherently weak.
What's wrong with them then?
I think people in general, can improve, but I would not say as a group that Black men are problematic, nor would I say that Black women as a group
why
are
they're
problematic.
not getting better, they're becoming weaker. They even call the Black woman queen. I'm like, what the? How is she a
what's
queen
wrong with
of
trying
hell?
to uplift What's wrong with trying to uplift Black women?
But calling her a queen is not uplifted her. That's uplifted her ego, which is evil, and to make her think she's something and she's nothing.
I'm not going to debate that one, but what I will say, no, I don't agree with what you said, but what I will say is that, based on your statements, I see that there are 2 core groups that I would encourage you to think about in more positive ways, and that is Black people and that is women. And then the subset of that being Black women. Because
Black
I don't
women are
think you have positive
dangerous
views.
because of their
They're
heart.
not dangerous. You just have a
Because of
negative
their
view.
evil heart.
I mean, I guess you have not encountered enough positive Black women in your life, which
It
is
doesn't exist.
unfortunate. And something must have happened along the way for you
No.
to have such a
No,
negative
nothing
view.
happened. Nothing happened.